I'm gonna kind of go over some stuff today. This is for kind of our new raiders and stuff, new players, new raiders, new guildies for sure. Guildies, I want you to understand this a little more than everything else. But servers are down today, so I went ahead and decided to start making this video. I'm gonna try to incorporate Kevin into this, or Shoshi, which is our one of our other officers, co-GM, if you would. But we're just gonna talk about a few things that I wanted to cover. Topics on the list right now are this notepad, the guild readme, the Wowhead, raid bots, questionably epic, Archon, the new hotness that sub creation was, icy veins and why people use it, warcraft logs, how to use them, the WoW analyzer, weak auras, and then some more different add-ons that we have for most people to try to grab a hold of to make them more efficient and a little bit helpful. So hopefully you guys pick up on some of this stuff. And then the last big thing that we're going to talk about is just talking to the officers. What are our needs? What do we need to do? How do I help? That's a big one. Professions are a huge piece there, and we usually talk about every community event we get to. So I'm going to make this video, probably cut it down and edit it a little bit, and see where we get to from here. For me, I play a druid, so I'm going to kind of go over most of the druid things here. But if you get into other stuff and you want to ask questions, talk to the officers. We can bring you back into this and talk more about this piece. Okay, so let's move into it. First of all is the guild readme. Inside of our Discord here, we have a readme channel. Looks like this. If you go in here, it's locked, but we have some, welcome to guild. Every guild should have this, right? Like, this is just, if you're going to be a person, understand what you can do to improve. How do I stay in the guild? And then how am I successful? These are the basic guidelines. I'm not going to go through all of this, but definitely take a look at it. Make sure that you understand that, we're here for a reason. We want to be courteous. We want to be players, team players at that. And definitely read through this. This is some notes that I took actually from another guild's team. They're like, hey, can I use this? Like, yeah, absolutely. And we go from there. It says something about here, and for channel pins, if you go to general, there's a pin channel here. And it has a bunch of stuff that we normally throw up for the tier. These were for this tier. And in serious business, we posted everything raid. So you'll see something like this. These are the people who signed up. Then it talks about each one of the individual bosses and what I plan on doing for a raid. So being a raid leader, it's a lot more fun to kind of go through this stuff prior to, especially seeing all the PTR events and what they went through and stressed out on, and kind of get some of the key points written down so I can go over this a lot faster. Pretty cool. It's just a quick read ahead for you guys, and some of the stuff exists on Wowhead, so seeing all this shit right here. So same stuff. Just understand that Wowhead will have a descriptive thing. I kind of go into layman's terms. Here's what we're doing, and then I usually post a link to a video that's PTR evented. So pretty cool stuff if you ever want to get into it. But I post one of those every raid tier, even if I'm not raiding that raid tier, which hasn't happened in a long time. So moving on, Wowhead. We talk a lot about Wowhead. We'll keep talking a lot about Wowhead. This is like your basic. Let's start doing stuff. So in here you have, this is our guild recruitment page. It exists, and I look for this to be posted on every once in a while. But if they post in here, I try to grab them in from the game. But if you go into your classes and you want to look up just the basic stuff, right? Basic stuff. We're talking like, what gear should I use? What stats are involved? This is the stuff I go look at. So Restoration is the one I started on this tier. I haven't played Restoration Healer for a long time, so I had to go in here and I started reading. There's a cheat sheet, how to play, overview. Some of the big ones I get into is talent builds, because we do that. We have talent builds and gear. Also stats, like what should I be looking for in stats. So those three things. But it'll go in here and talk about all the different things, why we do this, why we're strong, why we're weak. And talk about some of the changes they made into the next tier. I think it's very helpful to come in here and read all of this. And this is all subject to change. This is like a right out of PETR. I put this together. This should help you when you get in there. And some people will keep it up to date. Some people change it. This one was updated January of 2024, so it's been a little bit. So kind of understand that it doesn't change that often, but if they do want to change some stuff, here it is. And then we'll go into more stuff like that. So next, raid bots. Okay, so raid bots is for DPS or tanks, even healers, but I'll show you more specifically why I use other stuff for healers. Raid bots exists just for simming. So do you want to know how much DPS you're doing? So if I go to top gear, I use something called Simulation Craft, which is an add-on that I'll show you here in a little bit. I'll link this nasty little paper copy of who I am in game, and it has all my gear stuff attached to it, all of my talents that I'm using, and then it'll tell you a disclaimer: healers don't sim DPS, they do healing, and then you can kind of change these. Some of us know how to do it, but if you want to go against like, what's my top gear? Oh, this trinket's good for me, and I just got to go through this, and I just want to do more damage. This is more damage, right? And then I hit top gear. I can use this as a resource, and it'll cue me into this wait time of get in here, find out how much damage I'm going to do, and you might switch some trinkets around and find that you can do more damage another way, right? So use this as a tool of, this is how much damage I can do if I was in a perfect world, perfect rotation. Boss doesn't kick me out of the room. I don't die. Dying will definitely be a DPS. So definitely check this out. This is for your simming. I also put Question of the Epic. So this is another one. This is for your healers. So because I am a healer, I don't like going to raid bots because I want to know how much healing I can do, not the other way around. So if I go in here to Question of the Epic Live, it's going to pull in my characters. Here's my characters that I can heal on. I'm going to pick my resto. I'm going to, I can find my top gear for all the stuff that I have, just like you do in simming. I'll import the gear, same thing, simulation craft, put it in here. I can import it, and there it is. Or you can actually type in the name of the character, what item level, stuff like that. Same kind of thing. This one has a really cool function, though, that if I go in here and I want to find an upgrade for healing, I can pick the places I would find these pieces, but in this one I would import my gear and I'd find the best healing stuff. If you don't know how to use this, I can definitely help you with this for healers. This is actually really good and very strong, and I've found a couple pieces that I've tweaked around, but I've also went more DPS focused, so this kind of falls off if I want to do more DPS focused than heal. So both are useful. I think using them both is a really good idea. Archon, the new hotness. Alright, so sub creation was every raid that's existed during the tier, every N+ dungeon that you want to look at, every so on and so forth. There'll be something like this pop up, and you can take a look at it. For me, I like to look at the 20s to 32 level dungeons, and I want to see what is Resto Druid using to make themselves better. So I can go look at the top guy at Resto Druid. Alright, so he's the third out of the 7 that are doing this. This is his stat priority, where he's sitting at, or she, don't know. What talents they're using, and then even gear that they're using. So what gear were they using when they were doing this dungeon? And this will kind of give you a for instance of why, and maybe you see something that's like, wow, they use this trinket. This trinket's kind of adding to their crit. I didn't know we needed crit. Or Iridol's a really good weapon, but I'm using something else. And why do they use this? Damage based, stuff like that. But this will kind of give you an idea of, if I want to push harder, I need to get probably a little bit closer to this guy's gear, because he's doing something I'm not, if that makes sense. And this is what I look for. Again, this guy's heavy verse. In raid, we want mastery. So haste mastery. And if I were to switch this to raid, haste mastery. These are the talents they use from raid. And I can go from there and use these talents and some of the different pieces of gear that they use to make higher healing throughput in raid. Okay? You do that with talents, gear, what consumables they used, so who's using what. So you can kind of test the base on that. Trinkets, what's the best ones, and you see the popularity of certain ones that just make your healing throughput either go really, really strong, or maybe there's some niche. One guy used a 4% trying it, but didn't make it like these other guys who use these two. So definitely take a look at this. I think this is very strong. Just to go in and look to see what you're doing there. Moving on. Icy veins. Okay, so we always get to this argument of, do I use Icy Veins or do I use Wowhead? Icy Veins is good. I don't see it terribly fucking terrible. So they have a really good site. They've actually been working on this. If you have different things you like to play, there's some Last Epoch stuff, Diablo 4 stuff in here. But if you go into WoW, you can take a look at some of the different things and changes, some of the runs per week. And they have some good articles in here you can take a look at. But when I go into Took and look at the actual Restoration Druid stuff, it'll kind of go through the overview, just like it does before. It has the kind of same setup as Wowhead. I can go in there and look at stat priority, some of the other key pieces. A lot of times when you see this, it's updated better for PvP sometimes than it is for, like, I would say, like, your regular PvE stuff. So in here, I can go here and look at the same stuff. It's kind of built a little different. It'll tell you where to get it from raid, what's good for your crafting, your raid BIS, your mythic BIS lists, and then how to upgrade or what you should upgrade first. So it has its own good stuff. So this has some good stuff in it as well. I'm not going to say that it's bad. But preference-wise, a lot of us like using Wowhead because there's some good people writing those articles on Wowhead. So Icy Veins is okay. I won't knock it. Warcraft logs. Okay. You can talk a lot about Warcraft logs. I'm going to go into the basic stuff. So inside of Discord, there's always going to be somebody logging. If you go down here to raid logs, click on raid logs. Here's all the logs that we've done over the weeks of raiding for this tier. I'm going to go ahead and show probably an older one just to show some of our other stuff. Let's see. I want to pick one that's kind of good. This one, for instance. It'll take you to this site. This is Warcraft logs. This shows you all the bosses that we killed. So we did a heroic night, and this is how long it took us to kill each boss. In each one of these, you can go in here and find exactly how you did. So if I go to Gnarl Root, this is normal. I'm sorry, normal, not heroic. So this is heroic, normal. We actually 2-healed this the night that we did this. So if I wanted to go specifically to look at damage done, I can go look at who parsed really well. Meaning, out of all the things I could cast, I prioritize the right spells and abilities over time, and you can see like who did a lot of damage. And per their item level, where did they stand in the rankings of how much they did. So Skrull did a really good job on this normal fight and parsed very well. And then you can kind of see trickling down who did, less and less. 2 tanks, obviously. I can go look at healing, see how the healers did. And because there's only 2 healers, to look at. I might have stole some heals from Percy, but we talk about this stuff. And then damage taken. This is usually tanks, and I look at their mitigation points, how much they mitigated, how much activity they had. So if they're less active, they probably didn't have the boss as much. Therefore, they probably didn't take as much damage as the main tank who took a crap ton. If that makes sense. I could also, and this is very cool, and I like to go back and watch this. If something bad happens, I'll hit replay, and I will just watch the fight. And not a lot of people know this exists, because if something bad happens, this is what your raid leader will pull up the log, and he'll take the last pull that you did, and he'll look through. Oh, why is that warlock all the way out there? Why is he not up next to an armor? What's going on here? And we take into account all these different things that happen during the fight to see, how do we make this better? Am I not killing lashers fast enough? What's Gnarl Root's percentage at a certain point in time in the fight? What do we look to make this better if we were trying to go into phase 2 at a certain percentage? And we go over the stuff like that. And then, how did we get the 4 AoEs out? Did we get it out correctly? Boss mechanics. We're looking at all of it. So this is really cool to go back and watch yourself. You can even click on yourself. So I'm going to click on myself. This is all the stuff I've done healing-wise. This is what I'm trying to cast. So I do an efflorescence into rejuve, and you'll kind of see me rejuve spam because that's what I'm doing. And just trying to get my healing throughout and my potential out. And you can kind of pay attention to what you do. If you sit here and cast the same spell as a DPS, like Resource Builder, and you don't hit your spenders, I might go, where is your burn window? because we all build resources, but then do you use your abilities to do max damage? So I might go look at your damage rotation and even talk you through how do I make this better, right? So something to look at. I think Warcraft logs is very, very good. Something else to put up. If I copy this and I go to WoW Analyzer, this is the next step on this. Go to WoW Analyzer, it looks like this. When I go into WoW Analyzer, I can actually dump that log, copy paste it from the Discord link. It says it's from earlier in this patch, but that's fine. I just want to look at the normal. I'm gonna hit continue anyways. Here's the people that were part of the fight. This is all the specs we had, so we could add a lot more specs and stuff, doing a little bit more whatever for raid buffs. But in here, I can take a look at myself again. And during the fight, it'll tell you an analysis. Here's your rejuves, how you casted them, what happens when you cast them, wild growth casts, and did you need to do certain wild growths, my life bloom up times, my efflorescent up times, and just go through this and read, you should do this, and this is why. And if you didn't do it, make yourself better. So this is a way to improve just yourself. You can look at the stats. If there's any downtime, I look at downtime for this. Try to find it real quick. Might have skipped over it. Doesn't have the downtime anymore. But it says you did damage, I healed, and then any kind of like regrowth bad casts, some of the different things I had talented, and then just if I got any good value out of my trinkets and some of the stuff there. But it shows the HOTS that I had active at different times, my mana pool, and you should see as a healer dropping this very, very quickly. And just take a look at yourself. So I'll give you another for instance. We'll go back and we'll look at DPS. So House Trained. House Trained is it'll say it's not been updated for 10.2.5, but that's fine. It's still going to show you something. So in here to talk about energy resources for the rogue that we had, this is Sooner. And on Sooner's page, he had these are the Blade Rush utilities that he can do. And maybe he's not using this efficiently, or this might not be updated for the rogue, so it might tell you some bullshit, and then he can tell me like, no, that's not how this works anymore. So this makes me better as a raid leader to read this shit too. Core rotations, different stuff that you use for priority lists, and it'll kind of give you another idea. Enchants, I didn't have a built enchant, so you can go, oh, I can upgrade my built enchant right now. And make yourself better with that. So you can always look at this later on, but that's kind of an idea of what you've got there. All right, moving on. Weak auras. Okay. Again, I can talk weak auras for days as well. Let's say I'm on whatever character I'm on and I don't use a certain ability correctly, or I don't use it often enough and it's like my best ability. I can come on here and I can go into the classes themselves. I can get the weak auras for the different bosses in this raid. I can get the whole raid's weak auras. As long as I have weak auras installed in CurseForge, which I'm going to show you here in just a second, I can pull all of these little timing events, stuff that's going to pop up on your screen and help you out. And I can use these. So let's say Restoration Druid again. There's a pre-built one with all of my abilities, and it will change for each class that I'm in Druid-wise. Luxos did a really good job on this one. But I can, if I don't use my combo for Life Bloom and Efflorescence correctly, maybe I want to grab this. And you can see by installs how much it matters, or when it was updated. Sometimes these are things that are old, and you don't even want to use them. Adaptive Swarm targets, very good for healing and stuff like that. But you can go into each class and find something that's going to help you. I also talked about weak auras for the raid. I come in here and I make us all get weak auras for the raid before we get started. So I don't think we used liquids this time. I think we used this generic one that they built after PTR. We all used this one, and it'll show you like what's happening, what to call out. And so for a raid leader, I can call these things out a little bit faster, or you'll see it pop up on your screen, and you'll know this is what's getting ready to happen to me, and use that, right? So this helps. Weak auras help. And some people say, I don't like using weak auras. I don't like to play the game the way it wasn't intended. Cool. I'm not saying that you have to have it, but there are certain weak auras that I will link that I want people to use because it helps the fight. Igera was one of those situations this tier. And I'm kind of dating this, so Igera was one of those where we had spears to deal with, and it assigned positions for the spears to go. If you didn't have the weak aura, you didn't know where you were going, and you could tell very quickly that I'm going to wipe the raid because I'm fucking up this mechanic. So, very easy to get one of these weak auras installed real quick, and then just help your team that way, if that makes sense. So, pretty cool stuff, I think. We'll go back into that shit later. So we talked about all the stuff up top. I think this has been covered pretty well. Again, I will check the weak auras or the raid logs. A lot of times I'm going to go into raid logs and look for that stuff. All right, so add-ons, things that I would like everyone to have. Doesn't mean you have to have them. It's just it helps. I'm going to open up my CurseForge real quick. CurseForge is the application that you just download so you can use this and install this and just update all this stuff. There is one without Overwolf, which some people bitch about Overwolf. I've had a problem with it, so I keep it. I don't know what it's actually doing for me. I think it's just a manager in the background. But for retail, for classic, I have updates to do anyway. Might as well be doing it while we're here. For retail, for classic, for the upgraded classic stuff that you guys are doing, there's weak auras in here that help you. Some of these are just quality of life improvements. The big ones that I would say are bigwigs. I don't use deadly boss mods, but you can use deadly boss mods. These are the stuff that pops up on your screen during raid, timers, key events. So whatever that weak aura doesn't show me, bigwigs usually does, and it'll keep it up to date for what they have installed. I might need to see specific things, then I'll go to weak auras and pull those. Click is something I use as a healer. Details damage meter. Some people use recount or SCADA. I think Details does the most efficient, and you see a lot more people using that. So Details damage meter is one I strongly encourage everyone to use. Handy Notes is good for the map. Healy is a priority helper. Some people use this. I think it doesn't show all priorities, so DPS might not want to use this if they know their rotation properly. I would say this is garbage. So don't use it as much because there are procs and things that the Healy will not try to help you out with, especially if it hasn't been updated correctly. Little Wigs is the dungeon one. We talk about this one a lot. When I go into dungeons, I have timers and stuff just like I did in Raid, but it'll tell me like horrible casts are coming in. As a healer, I need to know about those because I may want to try to deal with them a little more proactively instead of reactively. So there's my stuff, right? Method raid tools. Everyone that raids with us uses this because I use it for assignments. I do notes off of it. It's our bit all-encompassing raid utility. And then I can check your gear, check to see if you use consumables the way you're supposed to. This is huge. Plater, it's just a UI enhancement. It's very, very good for me. We don't use loot council anymore. I still have it installed because certain raid groups that you get into want to use it, so I still keep it even though I'm not using it. Simulation craft. Get this one. This is for your sims, raid bots, and the question of the uplink stuff we talked about. So this is how you use simulation craft, and you just put /SIMC. It'll populate a whole notepad. You copy paste it, go put it into those two systems, and help yourself sim. Weak auras. Told you about this one before. I think weak auras is very, very good, and just keeping this up to date and throwing your weak auras back on there from the site helps you stay in touch with things changing, your character's playstyle, and how this can be improved. And this changes weekly sometimes for Druid, depending on if they found this new niche way of playing and talents changes. So that's huge too. So we talked about simulation craft. This is raid bots, that simulation craft that was inside here. CurseForge, the add-on manager. Click, Healbot, Voodoo. Healers are different. This is a healing thing. Click is very good for LVUI because I use LVUI. I use Click as well because it just allows me to function them faster. Healbot, people like that. It just has different frames. Healing can be attached to your mouse, left and right clicks. Same with Voodoo, and they have different things you can set up in there. Some people just, once they get started with using one, it just works for them. For me, click is fine because I look at big wigs, little wigs, and then I have my hotkeys set by click to just mouse over my frames and click a button and it's done. So I just have to hover. I don't have to click and then click again. This is something that was taught to me as an early healer, and I learned about it and I enjoy using it, so I use it now. Method raid tools we talked about already. Deadly boss mods are big wigs. We talked about those. You need to have one. You don't have to have both. Deadly boss mods is okay. I like big wigs because it feels a little bit more interchangeable, and it doesn't get to the point where I have too much on my screen. Big wigs lets me turn stuff on and off. So does DBM. I just play with big wigs better. That's my play style, I guess. And then dungeons using those little wigs, like we talked about. Little wigs shows up quite a bit prominently once you get to a dungeon, and it's pretty cool to see. Again, talk to the officers. If you don't know some stuff about this, you want to get into deep dives of like doing stats with people. This was a shaman healer that we were playing around with and kind of getting the idea of where your stats should be and what we can lose, what we can gain. Same stuff with DPS. You can do the same thing because you may not want versatility on a DPS. However, it might save your life in some of those bigger keys you're getting into because you're taking less damage. It might not add or equivalent to I'm doing more damage. It might just be you're taking less and your healer doesn't have to stress and they can do more damage too. So these are a lot of things you can go into, take a look at. I've kind of went through what I needed to go. I'm trying to keep the video a little bit shorter, and then hopefully I can piece in some of the stuff Kevin wants to talk about on this too. And if not, I'll just post what I got. But thank you for your time.